Welcome to episode 69 of the Narrative Wargamer Podcast. I am Tony Rhodes, and tonight I'm joined once again by Mr. Jonathan Sharpe.
Good evening.
And returning for the first time since we've been back on YouTube, Darryn Daggers.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, hello everyone, welcome back. Tonight is going to be the first one of our On Crusade episodes again for a while. And it feels fortuitous for many reasons. First of all, this is, of course, episode 69, and we're doing an Emperor's Children episode. Make of that what you will. All I can say is I imagine Fulgrim is somewhere out there quite pleased with himself right now. We're going to be looking at the Emperor's Children on Crusade later tonight in this episode. And I say fortuitous as well, because actually this is off the back of last week's video here on YouTube, which is actually how to get started in playing Crusade. So it's sort of like a bit of a beginner's guide video. So if you don't want to go check that out, you can do so. There'll be a link below. And that's been doing really well. And I have to say, it's also helped me reach a small milestone here on Narrative Wargamer, because it's actually brought us up to our first 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is something I'm really, really pleased and thankful for. So yeah, it's that last video. So at time of recording, it's only been out a couple of days, and it's already reached like 1,000+ views itself. So it's been really well received. I've been having tons of conversation in the comments with people that have been watching it and like talking about all these different avenues of getting into Crusade, and talking about the different sort of hints and tips and things that I discuss in the video, and it sounds like people have been enjoying it and finding it useful. So hence more Crusade talk tonight. Before we get into that, we're going to catch up a little bit, first of all, with one, a little bit of hobby news, and two, what we've just been up to ourselves. So Darryn, we've not had you on the show in a little while. Tell us what it is you've been up to recently in the hobby, and one of the reasons, I suppose, why we've got you on the show tonight.
Recently started an Emperor's Children army, a little bit before the codex. Did lose a few units that I thought I might still get, like Forge Fiend, things like that. But slowly chipping away, and I'm currently working on it.
Have you been finding them? Because is this your first Chaos army, or do you have other Chaos armies? I can't remember.
I've got a Death Guard army, but I didn't like playing Death Guard. They were too slow. I feel like Emperor's Children are much more my cup of tea.
We've not had a chance to really talk about the codex much, or like the Emperor's Children release, since it sort of it just sort of landed before we got things up and running again here on the podcast. So how have you been finding the army once you've actually been sort of taking it out on the table? I think you've played a few games now, right?
Yeah, I played 3 games and I've faced them at tournaments against them. But it was kind of good because I kind of knew the rules then as well. I've played the Peerless Blades, which is the one where you get to choose lethal or sustained. Quite simple. I found that one like really easy and accessible for more beginner player. And then I've tried the Coterie the Conceited, which is more where you have to like gamble how many units you can kill that turn, which is really good if you can do it. Yeah.
Like, say, how have you found that one? Because I think I remember seeing that one previewed and thinking that was quite an interesting sort of mechanic, this idea of bidding at the start of each battle round how many enemy units you think you're going to destroy, and if you achieve it, you get boons of some sort, don't you?
Yeah, so it kind of like stacks until you build up your number. Then when you get to 7, you get like... The game I played was a 1.5k, and I didn't quite get some of them on some rounds, but you can, for 1 CP per battle round, you can kind of like up it by 1.
You sort of like hedge your bet kind of thing, can't you?
Yeah. So I managed to get like not the max, but kind of do pretty well by the end. I can definitely see some potential in a bigger like 2k game though, where you've got a lot more things to do.
Yeah, have you been mostly playing? Did you say it was like 1,000 point games or something?
Yeah, I've been playing smaller point games at first just to get used to it. So
Cool.
Played one like a doubles like pairing with World Eaters. So.
Cool. And I think it's you showed us just before we sort of started recording, but you've got the big man himself, haven't you, on the paint desk?
I have half the big man.
Got the big snake right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that base, because people who have been able to see that will probably be wondering what's going on there.
So it's actually based on in the novel Steel Tread. There's a little bit where there's icons of Slaanesh on the battlefield, and all the traitor guardsmen run to it in glee and excess, and they're so happy to see this icon of Slaanesh that they impale themselves on the spikes. The guardsmen behind them then run up onto their bodies and impale themselves on the next spikes until there's these massive mounds of dead guardsmen. So kind of a little bit inspired by that. I thought it was a really horrible thought that they just looking at this icon made them just gleefully just dive onto spikes.
Yeah, it's it's certainly an intriguing aspect of Slaanesh, isn't it? Obsession and excess comes in many forms, not just the carnal ones that often get focused on.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you've had a chance to delve into the lore or the narrative stuff in the new codex, but like I say, I've not had a chance to look myself, but I'm guessing there's actually probably quite an interesting read is the Emperor's Children Codex. If it's
I've not had a good look yet, to be honest, through the lore, but I have listened to the audiobook of the new Fulgrim book that just came out with the model.
Oh, how's that?
I enjoyed it because it was Emperor's Children with Black Templars. It was good, but I think Fulgrim's in it for 20% of the book, and the book is called Fulgrim. And I kind of wanted to know what he was doing, and he doesn't really do much. He just kind of becomes a snake. And I'm not going to go into too much about what he does.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, fortunately, we probably need to keep things somewhat PG for YouTube. Have you read Angel Exterminatus from the Horus Heresy series at all?
No, I haven't.
Because that one is basically that book is all about what Perturabo and Fulgrim sort of get up to more or less after the events of Istvan, and it involves Fulgrim's ascension. That book features where he first ascends to demonhood, and that's a very interesting ritual and locale where it all takes place. But it's actually a really fascinating read. Obviously, a lot of the Horus Heresy books, the perspective is primarily focused on one or the other of the traitor or loyalist forces. It's like the protagonists of that book. And in this one, it's from the perspective of the Iron Warriors more so than the Emperor's Children, but the Emperor's Children are companions in crime, sort of thing throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
Think how the Emperor's Children are featured in the original Horus Heresy ones, where it's mostly about the Lunar Wolves, but the Emperor's Children are pretty, present throughout as well. What is interesting is that there isn't too much actually from loyalist perspective in that one. It's mostly it's mostly all about what they're getting up to at these two legions, while Fulgrim is basically trying to lead Perturabo off on this side quest to achieve his own demonhood. I think it's a good read. It's actually one of my favourites, I think, from the series that I've read so far, because I haven't read all of them yet. I'm getting there, slowly but surely.
I'm slowly getting there. Yeah.
Cool. And Sharpe, how about yourself? What have you been up to recently?
I've been sort of butterflying around a little bit, to be quite honest. I've been playing a bit of Blood Bowl. Our league season finished just after Christmas, so we've been playing a lot of Blood Bowl 7s, kind of a little open tournament. I've been playing with Dark Elves. It's been quite enjoyable. Went from being beaten week in, week out with goblins to actually standing a chance of scoring some touchdowns and winning some games. So I've been enjoying that. 40k wise, I mean, it's probably been about a month since I've had a game. I've played with the Craft World Codex a couple of times recently to give a couple of those detachments a go. I quite like what I see. I had a go with the Wind Rider host and then the Spirit host. They're both enjoyable. From a hobby point of view, I've been working on some Raptors for my Chaos Space Marines. These are incredibly small compared to a lot of models these days. Okay, so that was quite enjoyable. I've got
I've meant to ask before about those Marines. What is it you use for like the rocks on the sort of lava bases? Because they're quite
okay.
they're quite deep.
So that is just it's a piece of cork.
Oh, so it's just quite thick cork.
Yeah, quite thick cork. Yeah, and it just goes down. Yeah, just spray it up. When I put the red wash over the armor, I put a little bit on the bottom so it mixes in with the lava base. So I quite like my Chaos Space Marines like that.
That's great.
So yes, I've been doing that. The next things that are on the conveyor belt. Got some Space Wars ready to go. I keep waiting for the announcement on the Sunday evening for a certain box set to be released, but they keep putting these chaos stuff out. So my wallet's safe for at least another week, judging by what was put on the preview on Sunday night. So
I mean, I'm doing a similar thing, specifically waiting for the Crusade Armageddon book. Like that's the next one I'm sort of waiting for.
Yeah,
because this time around I'll be able to do a proper video here on YouTube all about that book when I get my hands on it. I've been waiting to do a sort of like a lore update video kind of thing about like, you know, some of the currently open-ended storylines that are like existing in the current narrative as they've been presented to us through things like the campaign books. And I can't decide whether to do it before or after the Armageddon book. I feel like perhaps the Armageddon book might be worth a video in itself, because people might be interested to know specifically, obviously, what the current state of affairs is on Armageddon, you know, post Gazgul's Second War and now Angron's second attempt at it. But we'll see. There'll probably be one or more of them coming in the near future.
Brilliant. I suppose the only other thing that I've done is that I had a friend around at the weekend and we had a couple of games of boarding actions. Okay, we didn't have the time to get the table set up for 3-4 hours of a 40k game, but we got the boarding action stuff out and had a couple of games of that, which is a nice type of game to play with a few models and surprisingly simple but quite deep in terms of the way that the gameplay works. And I thought the boarding action books that they released last year was a really, really good piece of merchandise, really, from Games Workshop's point of view, because everything you'll ever want in that book. So it's great.
Yeah, I think honestly we probably need to do an episode on that. We've certainly not really touched on it in 10th edition. I know I do actually have a boarding actions battle report up on the channel from 9th edition that I played with Dan. Redtooth. So it would be interesting to hear how it's doing in 10th, because I know you personally have mentioned it a few times in sort of like our Patreon chats and stuff about, you are a fan, and it seems like it's still
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have an episode about that in the near future, so look out for that as well. Yeah, cool. Then myself, since last episode, I've finished a Changeling, which was the little piece I was working on at the time. My Great Unclean One's still sort of like my current work in progress, but that's all kind of been sidelined a little bit by what I've been doing in the commission work recently. So anyone who has been following my Instagram will have seen that I have also recently painted Big Man Mr. Fulgrim himself. Not for myself, I don't have it here anymore because it's already gone off to its client, but that was part of some commission work I was doing for Team Unrelenting. And it was actually a really fun turnaround because as part of Chris's Unrelenting Brush commission team, we collectively had 5 Fulgrims come in from clients on basically like release weekend for Fulgrim. And as a team, we got all 5 finished in 2-week turnaround. So like we got them in hand, built, painted, and returned to be with clients 2 weeks after release. And there's should definitely go check out the _unrelenting_brush on Instagram, and you'll be able to see Chris put up a video of all 5 Fulgrims sort of in a lineup. And he did some like individual posts for each of the team's Fulgrims. So you can see mine up on my Instagram currently at Narrative Wargamer. But that is the post from Chris about my contribution to the team. I've got some photos and videos of my own I need to post, so they'll be going up soon, probably this week. In fact, they might be up now by the time this sort of goes out at the weekend. But yeah, he's been fun to work on. I can see, obviously, Darren, you showed us earlier, you were doing yours in an amount of sub-assembly. Mm-hmm. I did the same thing in the sense that I had snake body, torso with the wings on it, and then the head separate.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up approaching him. But yeah, turned him around in about 10 hours in the end, start to finish, which I was quite pleased with. And to say, again, I was quite happy with the quality of the result. And he was my first Primarch, first one I've painted. And to say it's already gone off now, so I'm sure I'll get some more in the future. I know there's been a couple of Angrons that have come through the studio team recently, but I think Chris is now currently on 7 Angrons that he has personally painted, and he's trying to get to 8.
It's midday, yeah.
So I think the next one to land might end up completing Chris's blessed number of Angrons. But yeah, so otherwise, the sort of things I've been up to recently is, I've been putting out that how to play or how to get started with Crusade here on the channel. That was fun. I've been starting to mull over ideas for scripts for my next fun little like comedy short, sort of like a couple of minutes long with the faction laws. The last one being the Our Space Marines Good Guys video. I think I might be continuing the journey of our unfortunate new player to the hobby who's going to be discovering just exactly what each faction is really like when he sort of properly looks into them. And so other fun things in store. Cool. Hobby news wise, I think the most recent sort of interesting thing to come out of previews from Games Workshop is these 2 new knights that we're going to be seeing with the release of both Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights coming up. I can't remember what they're called offhand. I think the Imperial one's called like the Knight Defender, and the Chaos one is some Knight like Decimator equivalent, or like
Ruinator, I think.
Ruinator, yeah.
Definitely got Ruin. Yeah. Sure.
I think it's really interesting now, a couple of days later, that we've now seen the Chaos Knight preview as well as the Imperial Knight one, and sort of seeing them side by side. Have you two seen these? Have you got some thoughts at all on them?
I think, I mean, they're fairly similar, aren't they? But the aesthetics aren't going to drift too much in when it comes to the Knights. I quite like the fact that they do something different. The Imperial Knight having a shield gives them a slightly different option, doesn't it, to what they've got so far, which is quite nice. I don't really know much about the Chaos Knights, but I mean, it looked to me like he got like a whopping great like fusion thing, and I wasn't so convinced with the drill. I don't know whether that's another one where a picture's been taken and it's been on a funny angle and it looked a little bit spindly, or whether it'll look a bit better when you see it in person. But it didn't quite look well, I wouldn't say it was very meaty in terms of a big close combat weapon, but I quite like the like under shoulder like rocket pod earring type things that it had. That was quite cool. A different aesthetic to what they've had before. I think they're nice additions to the Rangers.
Yeah, I also thought that, funnily enough, I think the rocket pods under the shoulders was one of the most notable, interesting additions. Because, like you say, it sort of breaks with the standard template that we've seen for a lot of these things, you know. It opens them up to a few new sort of options in future. I mean, I think... I feel like this marks a real new step forwards for the divergency of the knight codexes. Because previous to this, you've had that basically very similar model ranges. You know, the only minor differences in the past have been some slightly additional weapon configuration options for Chaos Knights, and then in recent years, the addition of like the Carnivores as the like alternate version of the armigers for the Chaos Knights, rather than just the Chaos armigers, for example. But now we're actually seeing variation in the sense that Imperial Knights have now got this Knight Defender and like Canis Rex and his like class of Knight. I think is one again that they've uniquely got access to with a sort of like mini laser destroyer thing that it has. Versus now the Knight Abominant and the new Knight Decimator, Runator, or whatever it was called, where actually like both versions of Chaos of Knights now have at least two unique chassis of like mainline Knights that's unique to being either the Chaos variant or the Imperial variant. Mm-hmm. I think it will be quite interesting now to actually see a game played out which is, say, entirely unique chassis between two Knight players having a game. You know, if you've got the Preceptor and the Defender being supported by Helverins and Armigers versus Abominant and Runator supported by Carnivores, I think actually you'd have an interesting game where they are very varied forces compared to each other. I do agree with what you were saying, though, Sharpe, about the drill arm. I think, funnily enough, one of the things that'll be interesting when you see it in person is obviously like the scale of it. You say it's spindly, but chances are like those like pneumatic pin arms on it are probably like the size, you know, the size of battle cannons, probably. Yeah. You know,
yeah. Like, it just the picture. Just, I mean, I've not seen a huge amount of it because it's only been announced recently, hasn't it? But I was like, on one arm, it looked like it got this huge, great gun. And you think, oh, look at that, that's going to do some damage. And then it kind of looked like it got like a little finger on the other side. Like, I was thinking it didn't quite sort of add up to me. But it might just be the picture. It might be a bit like the old Thousand Suns automaton thing where like the first time I saw them, I thought they'd be rubbish. But I'm waiting to see what other people do with them. And then I might think, oh, they're not so bad as I first thought. It might just be the pictures and the colour scheme and whatever.
I mean, we'll find out soon with those because I think they'll be landing in people's hands in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going up for pre-order this coming weekend.
I think I've seen a scale comparison of them and they were quite big. I think they were like bigger than the AdMech robots. They were like taller than them.
I get the feeling they look a bit taller but also a bit more slender than the like AdMech ones, because seeing them side by side with the other Thousand Suns stuff, they're sort of like head and shoulders over a Scarabocult Terminator. So they're not actually as big as I first envisioned them when we saw like the original previews. When in some sense I thought they'd be closer to sort of like Dreadnought size, not like Redemptor, but maybe more like Boxnaut, you know, sort of size originally. But actually, they're only a little bit bigger than sort of like Terminators. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they're actually like once people get their hands on them and do interesting things. But yeah, it'll be really interesting actually to see how Thousand Suns sort of like come together, because as we discussed in the episode, sort of in last episode, World Eaters and Death Guard have had some quite big shake-ups in their codexes in terms of how they play. And it'd be interesting to see what they do with Thousand Suns. Because the additions of these, new sort of cybernetic units, There'll almost certainly be some kind of detachment that'll probably focus on them. Whether that'll be something like the Poxwalker ones or the like Idols of Khorne ones, which seem to be very specifically built to particular units. It'll be interesting to see if that makes its way in there. But yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, like, say, what the community do with them once they get hold of them as well.
I think I just want to see them painted in like a regular blue as well. See what they look like if they like kind of match.
I have a feeling we'll see a lot of people doing them in the Heresy scheme for the Thousand Sons.
Yeah.
I feel like that would just be a popular choice, but I also think they will look really nice in the more blue and gold than the sort of like rusted bone.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I need to tell you about the Narrative Wargamer Patreon. Did you know, as one of our patrons, you can get access to exclusive benefits such as joining our community Discord, behind the scenes posts, early access to a range of videos, and bonus content, such as us playing a D&D style 40k one-shot roleplay game, and a brand new narrative play mission available every month to download and try yourself in your own games of Warhammer 40,000 on the tabletop. These monthly missions have been put together by myself, offering a fun and exciting alternative to the standard matched play missions, and each one comes with its own optional set of environment rules for an added narrative twist. Our patrons are super important to us, and without them, we wouldn't be able to produce these videos or the podcast. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of our existing patrons, and if you want to help support the channel yourself, you can sign up over at patreon.com/Narrative Wargamer, or follow the link in the description below.
So yeah, speaking of the other upcoming Chaos factions, we of course need to revisit the Emperor's Children. I'd say we didn't really get a great deal of chance to talk about them when they first came out, but now is our chance, and we might as well dive into their Crusade rules and have a little look at what they're doing in Crusade these days, because they're finally broken out from just being a standard Chaos Space Marine force. So I'm really interested to sort of see how Games Workshop has decided to define them, you know, with their own unique spin and their own unique take on what they're trying to achieve out there in the galaxy while we play our games. So Darryn, you're going to be sort of leading the conversation for this. Do you want to give us a little sort of rundown and intro into exactly what the Emperor's Children are up to on Crusade?
Yeah, sure. So first off, the big thing is the combat elixirs, which is crazy concocted space drugs that the apothecaries are making for them and taking and going out into battle.
So is this like the main faction specific like resource that you're probably presumably trying to collect?
Yeah, so there's basically 3 tiers of ingredients as well. So you've got the common ingredients, which at the end of a battle round, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result if you won. On a 4+, you add a common ingredient to your elixir stash. And if you get a 6, it's D3 common ingredients.
Okay, yeah. So again, for people who are perhaps new to Crusade or aren't overly familiar with the sort of intricacies of the system, the main thing is, in addition to tracking experience points to earn upgrades and so on for characters and units, you often have to track an extra sort of resource that's relevant to your faction. So in this case, it sounds like it's these ingredients. So you say there's like 3 tiers of ingredients. So we've got common ingredients, which you're earning potentially a number of if you win your game. Do you still get a chance to earn some common ones if you lose the game? Did you say it was just like it'd still be like a 4+ roll?
Yeah, so you get you add 2 to your result of your roll if you win.
Okay, so if you win 2+, you
get on a 4+.
But so even if you lose, there's still a chance that you're acquiring some ingredients. Now, how exactly you're acquiring ingredients from the battlefield, I'm sure has some questionable implications, but I'm guessing it's probably unfortunate elements of the now defeated foe making their way into these concoctions.
As we'll see later on in the later ingredients as well, because there's some very specific. The next is a rare ingredient. So at the end of every battle, roll 1d6, adding 1 to the result if you won, and then on the 6+, you gain a rare ingredient.
Okay, so if you won, it's still only a 5+.
5+. Yeah. Okay. Then you have the exotic ingredients, which is there are six in total.
We don't ask what the exotic ingredients are.
I can go over this: concentrate of tormented souls, dilution of false hope, distillate of hatred, essence of fear. This one's going to be self-explanatory, really. Extract of xenomatter. And infusion of traitor's blood.
Okay, cool. So currently, after every battle that you play with your Emperor's Children, you're rolling essentially 3 d6 because you're making 3 attempts to find some ingredients, right?
Not with the exotic ones, so you don't get them from at the end of battle.
Okay, so just
they come from like agendas and things like that.
Right. Okay. So
there's certain specific things that you do.
Cool. So after every battle, you get a chance to roll to get some common ingredients and a chance to roll to get some rare ingredients. Yeah. If you win the battle, you're more likely to succeed on those rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And at first, looking at it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to take a while to build up ingredients and stuff." But then, as I read through the things later on, there's quite a few ways to gain more and more ingredients.
Yeah, so again, for those not familiar, that's usually the common trend, is that the groundwork is set in the concept of like, this is the resource you track for your faction, this is the basic way you go about earning some, but usually there's some extra layers where you can pick agendas, which are essentially like your secondary missions that you pick when you're playing Crusade missions. Or other options, like there might be some enhancements potentially, there might be some requisition points that you spend potentially, or say Darryn, I'm sure is going to take us through these shortly, but there's other ways usually of collecting additional collecting additional resources for your faction resource, so in this case these ingredients. So tell us about some of these other methods of collection.
Okay, so skip past the elixirs for now. Let's have a little look. So in the agendas, the first one is Drought of Despair. Each time Emperor's Children unit from your Crusade army destroys an enemy unit that is battle shocked, that Emperor's Children unit gains 2 XP in additional at the end of the battle. If one or more enemy units fail the battle shock test during the battle, you gain 1 common ingredient. If 3 or more enemy units fail the battle shock test during the battle, you gain 1 rare ingredient. If 6 or more enemy units fail the battle shock test during the battle, or any of those units that were destroyed while battle shocked were Eldari units, you gain 1 essence of fear.
Ooh, that's nice. That's a nice little touch. I really like that. And Sharpie's face says otherwise.
I saw that,
Yeah, I'm not so convinced about that one, but okay. I'll let that one slide.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so again, for anyone unfamiliar, obviously Slaanesh, the patron god of the Emperor's Children, has a very ancient and long-standing beef with the Eldari, and particularly finds their souls especially delicious. And we don't. This is one of the things that I think is a great opportunity for Crusade to explore, is you don't tend to get much these days, not in 10th edition anyway, where you have sort of like faction-specific rules cropping up across factions. I think 8th and 9th edition were rife with whole bunches of stratagems that would be things like Vengeance for Calf, like Ultramarines gets rerolls against Wordbearers and stuff like that. Whereas you don't really see that in the core rules in 10th Ed. So seeing it in little places like this is a brilliant little place to drop in those fun little bits of lore, sort of tying the universe together. I really like that. But
I like that it's like achievable as well. So it's like if you do it with 6 or more enemy battle shocks, it doesn't have to be Eldari. You still get that essence of fear. But if it's Eldari were destroyed, you just gain 1. Which I think it's quite cool.
That's really cool.
I like that it's not locked that you have to face. There is another one. I'll not go over too much of the specifics on this one. It's the same sort of thing. But this one is specifically Adeptus, Astartes, Deathwatch, and Grey Knights. And if you manage to do that, you either get a rare ingredient, or if it is Adeptus, Astartes, Deathwatch, or Grey Knights, you gain 1 distillate of hatred.
Oh, okay. I was going to assume it was something to do with Gene Seed, but no, this is literally you're distilling down their hatred of you because you're a traitor.
Yes. Yes.
And they have a personal hatred against you more so than like Tau or Orcs would do.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
So there's another one which is more about gaining XP, and when rolling a d6, determine whether a rare ingredient is added to your combat stash and 3 to the result. So it's just if you gain more XP. So if you say it says you can only gain 3 XP per unit. I think it's just for holding objectives. But if you keep a tally anyway and get 6, then you start getting rare ingredients on that one. So it's just more about just playing the objectives, kind of like standard. But this the one I wanted to really focus more on is feeding the addiction. Each time an Emperor's Children unit in your Crusade army destroys an enemy unit with a melee attack, the Emperor's Children unit gains 1 XP. In addition, at the end of battle, consult the table below to see which ingredients you can add to your combat elixirs stash. You may gain all that apply. So if you kill 1 or more Chaos units, you get 1 rare ingredient or 1 infusion of Traitor's Blood. If you kill 1 or more units, excluding Imperium and Chaos, you either get a rare ingredient or an extract of Xenomatter. And if you kill 1 or more Imperium units, you gain a rare ingredient or dilution of False Hope. So just feeding on the Guardsman's False Hope. And if you kill 6 or more units, you just get D3 common ingredients.
Well, that's quite cool. So this is all sort of from the unique faction agendas.
Yeah.
Because again, I mentioned this in the video from last week, but typically when you're playing Crusade, if you are playing a campaign from any one of the given Crusade books, to say the most recently available one is the Natural Gauntlet one. The campaign usually has a selection of agendas that are the things you can pick to basically play your secondary missions, score campaign points, and experience. But all the codexes come with their own specific faction ones. So this is usually about 4 or 5 of them in total.
Yeah, there's 4 in this one, yeah.
Yeah. So in addition to experience, this is instead adding to your faction-specific resource, so these ingredients. So you've been collecting Draughts of Fear, Distilled Hatred, Essences of False Hope. What exactly do you do with all these ingredients once you've actually got hold of them?
So you can either equip it. There's army elixirs, which when you make one of those, it gives your entire army a buff.
Okay.
And there's 6 to choose from.
Yeah. So first of all, how do you go about making these elixirs? Because you say you make one.
Okay, so during the Muster Crusade army step, your army's faction is Emperor's Children. You can equip your Crusade army with 1 or more army elixirs from your stash. So I think it's where I read it, it's basically either at the end of a battle or the beginning of a battle. You can mix your ingredients that you've already got in your stash.
Yeah, it's basically.
So I think it's you can do it in your admin time.
Yeah, it's your admin time between games. You've got your list of ingredients you've currently got hold of, and you can presumably expend them to create certain elixirs.
You cannot equip the same elixir more than once per battle. Each time you equip an elixir, it is either of these ways: remove that elixir from your stash and make a note which army elixirs your Crusade army is equipped with and which characters are equipped with personal elixirs. Because there is the 2, there's the army ones and there's personal ones, which is literally for buffing characters and their units.
Okay. And I'm guessing, are all these elixirs essentially one use? So, you've concocted one. You've decided you want to use it in your next game, and you can presumably use any number that you want. Like, so you can't use the same one more than once, but you could have multiple army-wide ones, multiple personal ones for your characters.
I think you can only have one army-wide one per game.
Cool. And then presumably it's then used up, and you have to brew more between games.
Yeah, so it basically explains in the book is that they're like their brain has just like processed that drug. They've had too much of it, and then they don't want it anymore. So they want like that next best thing, looking for the new fix. So you will probably move on to a different one.
Yeah, so it's not even so much a supply issue; it's more just a demand issue. Like, now we're done with that one. Now, be the new one.
Yeah.
Cool. So, give us what's the sort of like rough cost to make these elixirs? Like, what's a relatively standard army-wide one? How many ingredients does it take?
So, when you first muster your army at the very beginning, you automatically gain one, which is the Anthrax Silk. And what that does, it gives you add 2 to the movement characteristic of Emperor's Children units from your Crusade army.
You're pretty nifty to be.
So you just get that one base.
Yeah, aren't you like movement 7 base on most of your units?
Yeah.
Yeah, so movement 9 Marines, just sort of like
in your first game. Yeah. Well, basically, if you don't take an army elixir, in the first round of each battle, if you did not equip your Crusade army with or any characters with it from combat elixirs during the Muster Crusade army step, every Emperor's Children unit from your Crusade army is battle shocked until the end of the battle round. So you start the game fully battle shocked if you don't take an elixir.
So you've literally.
That's why they give you one in the beginning, because otherwise you would start at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, your whole army is just suffering from withdrawal if you don't take any.
Yeah.
That's quite funny. All right, so as an example then, so that if you say that's like the baseline elixir, so it's army-wide plus 2 movement, and they literally give you one at the start because the assumption is you're going to need to have one in hand most games. Yeah. What's the cost in ingredients to make that elixir if you want to make more?
So to make that one, it costs 1 common and then 1 rare, or if you specifically have the extract of xenomatter, you can get it for that.
Okay, and is that so? The xenomatter one that's a rare ingredient, isn't it?
It's a no, it's an exotic one, but I think it's like you can just use the exotic one instead of using the rare and common.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So
either or, yeah.
Yeah, you need either the one common and 1 rare, or the 1 exotic, and that's it.
Actually, no. I think it might be 1 common and very specifically the xenomatter. So a rare or the xenomatter itself. Yeah, but still think you need a common for that one. Yeah. But each different. So some of them only require. Some require like Essence of Fear, some require 2 common and a rare. So there's different elements to it. The only why I'm finding it so confusing is that if you look at the page, it doesn't tell you common, rare. I've had to learn symbols. I've had to make a key to remember what these symbols do. So I've been learning Slaneshi, common, rare, and exotic symbols.
You've been busy taking notes from Fabius's alchemy book.
Yeah, pretty much. Made my own.
So, am I right in saying that you're more likely to get certain ingredients by fighting certain armies, and therefore fighting certain armies will enable you to brew certain combat drugs as a result? More likely than others?
Yeah. Or you might have to fight a bit harder against, say you're not fighting a Xeno army, you probably have to try and get more rare ingredients if that's what you want.
Right, okay.
So there's more an emphasis to try and find those kind of things.
I mean, I do like the idea that an Emperor's Children player in a local club crusade would literally be headhunting their opponents. Been like, where's the Tyranid player? Is he coming in this week? Can I play him? Please, can I play him?
That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, I don't want to play Imperial Guard again. I need to play Xenos, an opponent, because that's the quickest way to get the combat drug that I want to use in my next game.
Yeah.
Wow.
I imagine, especially if, for example, as well, is if you've had quite a lot of games, you've used 3 or 4 of them, and there's a specific one you're like, I need to take that next. If you don't take it, you're getting battle shocked at the beginning of the game. Yeah. So you kind of really need that ingredient, otherwise you're going in on a low, not a high.
I mean, I like the idea that in a map-based campaign, again, that Emperor's Children player being strategically targeted at certain territories, to just be like talking to their like team, warlord, and be like, I really need to go fight this territory because I need to fight that opponent. It's just a really fun sort of like real world sort of like meta level of gameplay to it. It's actually quite fun. All right, so we've got that's sort of like one of your basic elixirs, as it were. Tell us about a few of the others. What do they actually do for you? So if you want to run through these like army-wide elixirs to start.
Yeah, so I'll go. There's 6, which is a quite good number for Slaanesh elixirs. So we've got +2 to your movement characteristic of your army. Add 1 strength to the characteristics of melee weapons. Add 1 toughness characteristics to Emperor's Children units. Add 1 to the attacks characteristics of melee weapons. Improve ballistic and weapon skill by 1.
Ooh, that would be good if you're rocking with your Noise Marines.
Yeah, that one would be very nasty. I think that takes 2 common ingredients or just 1 extract of Xenomatter to get that one. And then the last one is improve leadership and objective control characteristics of Emperor's Children units from your Crusade army by 1.
Ooh,
So +1 OC, +1 leadership.
Army-wide +1 OC, taking all your battle line units to OC free.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty significant, step up on your army. You only 5 infractors that have infiltrated onto an objective, or tormentors maybe might be the infiltrating ones, but whichever. 5 infiltrating ones,
the shooty ones,
yeah, and you just 15 OC off those 5, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I didn't think any of those possible boons that you got from those were particularly bad from an Emperor's Children point of view.
And then you said there were some personal elixirs as well?
Personal elixirs as well, yeah, which are, you then put them on a character and they buff him and his unit, or just him, depending on. So, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the names, because if you could see them, you would understand why.
I'd give them a go. I've had to read many a complex name for this podcast before.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've listened to any of the fun facts episodes, oh my god, some of the techno disciplines of the cryptex in the Necron armies are ridiculous. But I get there. So I'll perhaps.
I'll read a couple. So we've got Alacrine, the Bearer's unit as the fight's first ability.
I mean, Emperor's Children unit just having fight first. They're just all game.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty nifty.
Sabrisek. It's also written in Old English, kind of chaos writing as well, so it's not like Sabrisek. Once per battle round, when you target the Bearer's unit with a stratagem, reduce that CP cost of usage for the stratagem by 1.
Okay. Is there anything like that in the natural abilities of the data sheets in the army? Is there anyone who does reduce the cost?
It tends to be like a Chaos Lord or
equivalent.
Captain type.
Not in Emperor's Children. I think there may be some enhancements in the normal rules that you can do that, I think, maybe, but...
Because that would be interesting to have a scenario where you could potentially reduce the cost of something by 2, if you were able to stack it up with an ability.
Yeah. Thrynacy. Each time the bearer makes an attack, a successful wound... This one's really good, by the way. This is one that stood out to me a little. Each time the bearer makes an attack, successful wound roll inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. Or 2 mortal wounds in addition to any normal damage instead, if the bearer has lost 1 or more wounds. So if you're a little bit more wounded, as well as the damage that you're putting through anyway if they fail their save, you are also doing 1 or 2 mortal wounds per damage.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to ask this question in a bit, but now obviously I know this is Crusade, so it's not normally the remit of unique characters and epic heroes. But are you able to give these personal elixirs to Fulgrim and Lucius? Is there anything that prevents you from doing that if you had them in your army?
I'm not sure. I know usually in 9th you couldn't give named characters this kind of thing.
Well, so you see, the thing is that these aren't enhancements. This is
these are.
This is something that's unique to Crusade, and Crusade often has some slightly sort of janky interactions like this, where there's nothing. This isn't an enhancement that you purchase for a character model. This is just an ability that you give to a unit in your army.
So I imagine, if you could, I can't see anything that says you can't. I can't see anything about named characters or anything.
So obviously you can include epic heroes in Crusade forces. It's just they don't gain experience.
They
don't tend to gain any of the Crusade upgrades.
Yeah.
But you do have stuff like this where, and again, narratively, there'd be no reason why the hell Fulgrim and Lucius would not be indulging in the elixirs.
Yeah.
So could you imagine Fulgrim putting out the every successful wound roll puts 2 mortal wounds on you because lost 1 or more wounds?
I think this would actually with Lucius as well, he can lead flawless blades. Now their data sheet ability is success when you basically gamble that if you're going to kill something it makes every wound roll of 3 successful. So you can wound a Land Raider on a 3, you can wound a Grot on a 3, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever you're hitting, it wounds on a 3.
They have anti-3+, don't they?
Yes. So, this would then do, on top of their 2-3 damage, it would also be throwing out mortals as well. On every successful 3. And if you've equipped Lucius, because Lucius would have to be there for it to be a personal elixir.
I mean, again, as I say, I mentioned this before in, let's say, last week's video. There is some really fun and unique, slightly broken stuff you can do in Crusade.
Yeah.
I
think that would be it.
Yeah, sticking to, obviously, the spirit of having fun with it. I mean, I do think it would be fun to see Lucius and Fulgrim, jacked up on these elixirs. I think there would be some really interesting interactions.
You say that, it might be fun to see it if you're spectating on the side of the table or something in the game. I'm not so sure it was so much fun if you saw it and you were playing it.
I mean,
how many wounds was that? Well, 17 went through, plus another 34 mortal wounds. Is that going to be enough to wipe the unit? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the thing is as well is that this is a one-use elixir, isn't it? That's the point. It's not like this is just an upgrade that you're getting to then have on these characters indefinitely. You've invested the time and effort, probably cherry-picking opponents based on what ingredients you can get out of them to get to this point where you've made this elixir so that you can use it in one specific game, which is probably going to be a linchpin game of a phase of the campaign. So, you are going to break out these elixirs for Lucius and these flawless blades when it is the pivotal match to try and determine who's winning that phase of the campaign, probably against your most grudged matched opponent of the of the club. So it feels like the right moment for something like this to pop off, once in every 5 games or something,
Yeah. It's also not going to happen straight away because it's quite costly on ingredients.
Well,
So
it should be.
Yeah. So it's 2 rare ingredients, or the distillate of hatred, and a 3rd rare ingredient, or the dilution of false hope. So you need to have beaten an Astartes army and
A Chaos one
an,
as well, was
an
it?
Imperium for the false hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like guard. So you need to have beaten Space Marines and guard, actually managed to get their ingredients
Right.
before you can make this, or 3 rare ingredients to be able to do this.
So yeah, it's like it's definitely, this will be that pinnacle moment that you've literally been trying to build towards, you know, for the past 2 months probably at your club, you know, your club nights. So I think it's fair to say that it will be a memorable moment when this gets to go off, and it'll feel like it was worth it.
Yeah. Unless the unit gets shot off the table before you even get close.
True.
In which case there'll be a massive anticlimax after.
Well, hey, it depends. They could quite easily have army-wide +2 movement as well, remember?
That is true, yeah. Yeah.
Or +1 toughness. Army-wide, add 1 toughness characteristic, maybe.
Wow.
This almost sounds like it should be the real home for Fabius, more so than CSM at this
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Cool. Any other notable elixirs, or is that probably the highlight?
There is one, and I think I know why I'd want. At first, I was like, but going back to the agenda, which was saying that more units you battle shock. So this one is at the start of the battle shock step of each player's command phase. Each unit that is within 12 of the bearer and is below its starting strength must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the test if it is below half strength. So you have a 12-inch aura of making your enemy take. So if you're right in their line, you make them take battle shock in both your command phase and theirs. So that's where you can really start stacking your battle shocks and start getting your ingredients.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that impressive to start off with, does it? But in conjunction with that agenda, that has potential to really rank up your the spoils of war, shall we say?
Yeah, and it only costs 1 common and 1 rare, or 1 essence of fear. So it's not too bad.
And I would also say it works quite well in conjunction with Fulgrim's base size.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So again, you know, I can't decide whether it is thematically appropriate or not that Fulgrim seems to be one of the best places to put all these elixirs.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he is going to pick the best things for himself, really. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, like you say, you know, throwing any Lord down there. I mean, to be honest, even things like, is it the Lord Cacophonous, the guy who leads the Noise Marines? Like, even though they're not a combat unit, I think he only has like 12-inch range, like pistols, doesn't he? Himself. Yeah, so if he's leading a unit, and Noise Marines, I think, are only actually like 18-inch range. They're not very long-range units. If they're, you know, rocking up, hopping out of a rhino and then blasting away, and actually then they've got this whole aura effect to try and battle shock all these opponents just nearby. Like, it can be it'll be a good, you know, tech piece that you can sort of pull out when you need to. Yeah, I mean, again, a Demon Prince, to be honest, just a generic winged Demon Prince, you know, flying right into the middle of the enemy lines. I think the Emperor's Children ones are actually quite tough, aren't they?
Yeah, so they've got the minus damage, and they also have a 14-inch movement. Yeah.
Base, assuming he hasn't got +2. or plus toughness or whatever else.
And he can advance and charge because of his army rule.
Yeah.
He can advance and charge. So it could be, I've got one into my opponent's deployment zone turn 1.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So they're pretty fast.
This is before you get into adding on some Crusade relics, which we'll be getting to shortly, and I'm sure there'll be some interesting options in there that you can maybe add on to this Demon Prince as well. But yeah, the idea of a 16-inch move, advance and charge winged Demon Prince that causes battle shocks on everyone within 12 inches in both players' command phases. Yeah. He's gonna start harvesting some ingredients for you.
Yeah. So that's where, at the beginning, when I saw it, I was like, this is going to take a while to kind of build up. And then the more I've read it, the more I've seen, there's a lot of ways you can really be quite strategic to get these ingredients pretty quick. Next one is Sanctus Vi, which is the bearer as a 2-up invul save.
Just for the game?
For the game, yeah. 2-up invul. Yep.
And there's no clause in there saying you can't use the command reroll on it, like most 2-up invulns in the game.
Nope. It just says the bearer has a 2-up invulnerable save. That's it.
Right. Not even until he fails one? That's usually the rule, isn't it?
Nope.
And
it's he has a 2-up invul the entire game.
It's horrendous.
And it's not activated yet up till the end of the battle round, or for a phase, or...
Oh my god.
Okay, alright, so here we go. I think we've found the particularly busted and broken thing that, despite the fact it being legal, I do not think it would be very fun to put that on Fulgrim.
No, absolutely not. It'd be horrible on a Demon Prince.
On a Demon Prince with wings, it'd be pretty horrible, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be horrible on anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
At least something with a fairly decent toughness, you might actually get enough wounds through that they might fail a few 2-up invuln saves. But something on like toughness 10 or 12, where you're really going to struggle to actually even wound, and they're literally ignoring 5/6 of any wounds that you get through. That's just horrendous.
Yeah. Now, again, I feel like it's worth just saying that this isn't just an enhancement that you're just able to pay points, for a 2-up invuln.
Yeah.
It's not a thing you can just add to your army list and you just have it all the time and it just becomes a linchpin of your strategy. This is presumably one of the higher end personal elixirs.
Yeah.
You're going to have spent multiple games and an extended period of your campaign building up to, having it in your stash, and deciding on which one game is the time that you're going to pop it off and use it. So, yeah, if it's that linchpin game of the campaign and you do want to missile a 2-up invuln Demon Prince into your opponent's lines just to really, have him be the big issue for them all game that they have to deal with, then yeah, you're going to do it. And I'm sure they'll be doing their own fantastical Crusade things back at you, So...
Yeah.
it is kind of all fair game ultimately, just so long as you're not being, as I say, too ridiculous with it. I don't feel like that feels kind, fair, or even fun on Fulgrim.
Not for that one game, yeah. But it does cost quite a lot as well. So it is 1 common, 1 rare, or concentrated of tormented souls, and infusion of traitor's blood. So you definitely need to have an exotic one for Traitor's Blood. So you need to have defeated Chaos.
1 week in the campaign, you'll be talking to the campaign master, and you'll just be going, now I know I'm part of the Chaos Alliance, and I know we should be having a game against the Xenos or Imperial Alliances, but I really, really need to fight some Chaos Space Marines. So any chance I could fight one of my allies this week? That would just be a really fun conundrum for your campaign master to work out. Right, I've literally got the Chaos players wanting to infight, and I have to work out what I'm going to do here, because the Emperor's Children player wants to go after the Death Guard player. Meanwhile, he's actually wanting to fight the Astra Militarum guy. But I'm going to have to break off their game because his ally wants to stab him in the back.
The one last one of this, it's just in your shooting phase after the bearer's unit is shot. If that unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inch. So it's like move, shoot, move.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, again, something which would be considered quite a significant ability in most other conversations. But after
Yeah.
after the things we've just talked about, when you're like, yeah, sure, that's pretty mundane. Move, shoot, move, cool.
Yeah, I know there's units in armies that have that, and like not everything just has a 2 invuln or deals successful wound roll mortals. So yeah, I think it's great, but after the others, I think
the elixirs are obviously the main faction mechanic that you sort of working towards as you play in your games and deciding when you want to expend them. Then the agendas are mostly targeted towards earning those components for those elixirs, which then sort of leaves us with 2 other main elements of Crusade rules for any given army, and that being one, the requisitions, so the other things that you can spend your like between game resources on. Are there any highlights there? I'm guessing there'll usually be some stuff related to sort of like swapping out characters or gear, or usually like setting.
There is some of that stuff. There's one where you can promote like tormentors or infractors to become flawless blades.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah,
and then they carry over the XP, battle scars, battle honor, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you basically it's a way of transferring all the experience and upgrades that you've earned on your battle line units to then turn them into a unit of flawless blades that start with those experiences and upgrades rather than just a fresh unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my favourite, I think, has to be Perfect Ascension. So this one is basically you turn a character into a Demon Prince, or a Demon Prince with wings.
Okay, so it's the ascending a character into demonhood.
Yeah. But it says here as well, normally you can't take Boons of Slanesh on anything with Demon keyword. But when you change your character into a Demon Prince in this way, any Boons of Slanesh that your character carries with him, he then gives to the Demon Prince.
Okay, so next question then. Boons of Slanesh, what are they? Is this essentially like the Chaos Boons that the normal Chaos Space Marines have access to? But this obviously is all Slanesh flavoured, I'm guessing.
It is, yes. So it's the roll a d33 kind of Boons of Slanesh. So you have like add 1 to advance and charge, 6 up feel no pain, improve strength of melee weapons by 2. This is also what I thought was quite cool with a couple of these, is that if you kill a certain faction with some of the Boons of Slanesh, you gain an ingredient.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, there's only a couple of them, but
yeah. So the Boons of Slanesh, this sounds like the dedicated faction upgrade option, basically. So again,
I think it's only on characters. This one.
Yeah. You won't be able to obviously do this on a unit.
Like your battle honors, yeah. So the one there's like Razor Claws is the one where improve the armor penetration of melee weapons by 1, and if you destroy a unit in melee that isn't Imperium or Chaos, then you gain an extract of Xenomatter. So as long as you can kill a unit, you then gain the Xenomatter from having the Razor Claws.
I do think that's a really interesting addition, that actually what are essentially these upgrades, these battle honors, that you're actually tying back into earning your faction resources again. That's not something I think we've seen before. Like in previous editions, I don't remember any of the upgrades that your orcs could, your orc warlord could earn, would then earn you scrap points.
It weren't anything like that. No,
that's a really interesting way of tying it back around. I like that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's one that you can fight if you beat a chaos unit, then you get Traitor's Blood. There's one, but it's obviously also giving you +1 attack. You have that one that gives you +1 AP, and if you kill a Xenos unit, then you gain Xenomatter. And then there's also one, Dark Majesty, improve the leadership characteristic by 1 and the OC by 2. of your character. At the end of battle, if it's within range of an objective marker you control in your opponent's deployment zone, you gain a rare ingredient. So if your character can be on there at the end, you gain guaranteed rare ingredient, which is quite good.
And then, out of interest, are there any boons which in any way provide you something similar to either +1 to wound or in some way re-rolling saves?
That's some.
There might not be, but I could just imagine the fun things you could give to this Demon Prince with a 2-up in one or his mortal wound dealing bonuses.
There's a -1 to hit. There's nothing really to make him. There's +1 toughness, -1 to hit. And maybe the feel no pain, so you kind of
throw feel no pain on there as well. Yeah. Two up in one and feel no pain. Why not?
Yeah.
And damage reduction because it's a demon.
And damage reduction, yeah. But only if you ascend him with the perfect ascension, because otherwise you can't take the boost.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So again, one of the things I talked about in this How to Simplify Crusade video that I did was that one of the things to really help cut back on the admin a lot is you don't have to track experience for absolutely everything in your army. Just track it for the things you want to track. That could even just be as simple as a couple of characters. Because everything we talked about so far tonight, like you could start with your basic Sineshi Chaos Lord, like the Lord Exultants or whatever they're called. And you're now talking about, as he levels up, gaining these Sineshi boons as his upgrades, which are then cycling back into him earning ingredients for the elixirs, which then you're stockpiling to use for really specific and targeted bonuses on him and the army in those key matchups in your campaign, and spending those requisition points once he's got a couple of these boons to ascend him to demonhood, where you've then got a demon prince who has specific upgrades that he couldn't have otherwise had, equipped with elixirs he's been sourcing components for and making and drafting in order to take down the big bad of the enemy alliance in that final battle of the campaign. And that's tracking everything for just one character. And that tells a story. Like, that becomes the story of your character. And like, how cool is that when all of that comes out of just these picking your agendas, getting your ingredients, using your elixirs, leveling up, becoming a demon prince, just telling that story over those 2-3 months of this campaign. It really does bring to life the narrative of the gameplay sometimes like this.
I also think it suits the idea of Slash as well, because it's like he wants to be the demon prince, he wants all the elixirs, he wants the boons. It's very much about excess and self, and
yeah. I mean, as you were saying earlier, Sharpe, you're like, 17 wounds plus 34, mortal wounds. I think that is the ultimate excess, really, and probably the ultimate patronage to Slaanesh that you could achieve. Did I kill you in more mortal wounds than you had to start with before I even made you take any saves?
Yeah.
There's the other thing as well is, so you can take more than one of these boons on your character.
Yeah, if it's anything like the Chaos Space ones before, because you've got a D33 table, like I think like a max leveled character in Crusade will only have like 6 upgrades. I say only 6 upgrades is a lot of upgrades. So 6 of them from that D33 table. Basically you just don't have any duplicates. I think is the only thing. You just reroll duplicate boons. Other than that, they could all be
not quite in this one. If you get a duplicate, you become spawned.
Oh, is that the Spawndom clause?
Yeah,
it's always in there.
Nice.
Always in there somewhere. You're trying to become a demon, and instead you become a spawn. But does it include the situation where you would be a spawn with those boons?
Yes, you get to keep the boons.
Yeah, exactly. Which that in itself is then really funny and entertaining, because then you've got this chaos spawn actually suddenly has all these extra cool abilities, and potentially I'm not sure if it would have the Crusade relics if it had any at that point. It might be forced to respec them into more Chaos Boons. But you can just have a really fun, like, fallen lord who then has been succeeded by his lieutenant or whatever, the warband.
Yeah, and then you bring in the new character and start making him try and become a demon prince instead, because he's like a new guy.
Look at me. I am the Lord Exuberant now. Cool. And then I think we can round off tonight's discussion with one last thing, which is, of course, I assume there are some Crusade relics in here.
Yes.
Yeah, so
there
these
are 5.
Yeah, so these are, again, upgrades that your characters can take when they level up in Crusade. It's like, they're often similar in concept to enhancements that you would have in your normal army, except that these are bought with experience points instead of gameplay points. And you just keep them indefinitely, and you can have multiple of them, and they're often really unique and fun, and where some of the wackier war gear and weapons from the universe exist. So, do you want to run down some of your favourites from our Slaaneshi Crusade relics?
Yeah, let me have a little look. So the one of the more basic ones is after you finish making your attacks, for each model destroyed by those attacks, the bearer regains 1 lost wound.
Yeah, so it's basically
to a max of 3 wounds per phase.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's a pretty standard, like, Soul Stealer sword. You see that in a fair few different places in Slaaneshi forces historically.
Except for this, the Soul Snare Sigil.
There you go. It's all about stealing souls.
Yeah.
Any chance you get extra wounds from killing Eldari?
No, not Eldari on this one. But if you do go over your maximum amount of wounds with that you gain, instead you get in the next fight phase you get a 5 up feel no pain.
Oh, that's nice.
So you get a little bit of excess if you go over.
Oh wow.
That's a nice little addition. Yeah, if you heal up fully and go excessively over, feel no pain.
Yeah.
I like that.
There are some of these as well where someone makes you force battle shock, and if you make them force a battle shock, you get the essence of fear, same as killing an Eldari. So there's things like that in it as well.
Yeah, so Crusade relics are again actually tying back into your faction resource. Again, something we've not really seen before, but I do quite like it.
Yeah, there's a couple that do it. So a big one that I thought was quite interesting, because we've not really talked about the main army rule, which is the Thrill Seeker's ability. So it's that you can advance and shoot, or advance and charge, except for you can't charge a unit that's already been charged by another unit that's advanced or shot.
Yeah, I believe it's so basically all Emperor's Children units can at all times advance and charge and advance and shoot and fall back and shoot and fall back and charge. But if you do fall back, you can't shoot or charge the thing you fell back from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've advanced and shoot and charge, you can't target something that has already been targeted by another unit that has also advanced in order to shoot and charge.
Yes.
So there's a bit. Yeah, go on. Unless
you have the Mark of Excess, which allows your character and his unit to still be able to advance and fall back and target something that's already been fell back from or advanced and attacked.
It removes the restriction, so at that point your unit is just capable of advancing or falling back and shooting and charging anything anywhere. Just complete freedom of movement.
Yes. And then obviously because it's the legendary relic, I now have an essay to read, but this is the Bliss Giver.
Ooh.
This is a long-tongued demon weapon that can render those who feel its sting insensible and indescribable pleasure. I'll not read the rest, but I'll tell you what
Darryn, you were just getting me excited.
Just getting you. Oh yeah, tempting Shoe Thirst, tempting the Eldari player. Okay, so melee weapons equipped by the bearer have precision and devastating wounds ability, and improve the attacks armor penetration and damage of those weapons by 1. Yes.
So +1 attack, AP, damage, precision, and dev wounds.
Yes.
Wow.
And
Now-
if that's not excessive enough, there are also 2 more paragraphs underneath of rules that this thing gives you.
Additional rules on top of that.
Additional rules on top of that. This is
Alright.
very excessive. It's a very excessive sword.
Go on, then.
So at the end of the fight phase, each enemy character model that had 1 or more attacks made by the bearer allocated this phase but not destroyed must take a leadership test. If the test is failed, that character's model suffers just 3 mortal wounds. So if you fail a battle shock test, if this sword didn't kill you, you take 3 mortal wounds.
Yeah, so it's like poisoned basically as well.
Yeah. If you fail the battle shock test. But then it's also if
And
the unit destroyed was 1 more Imperium leader, or an Imperial leader unit or an Imperial character. With this sword, you also get the dilution of false hope.
Oh, okay. So also that, yeah, if you've specifically targeted and damaged down an Imperium unit, you also get the Imperium-based ingredient.
Yeah. It's a very excessive sword. I like it.
Yeah, so that specifically is the Legendary Crusade Relic, which basically is sort of like the end game reward for your main character in this, because there's usually only 1 legendary level relic, maybe 2 at most, and you have to basically be sort of like nearly the top level of experience to be able to take that. But yeah, notably, that is still a upgrade, which means it's not something you can give to epic heroes. So
No, you can't give that to.
thankfully you won't see Fulgrim or Lucius running around with that particular weapon. But that Demon Prince we've talked about, he could have it.
Yeah.
He could be doing some very excessive things with it. So yeah, that was our not so brief look at Emperor's Children on Crusade. I wasn't sure at first actually how long that'd go on for or how much there would be to dig into, but actually it seems that there was more than I expected, and honestly, quite an interesting system, I think.
It seems very well thought out, doesn't it? It seems to me like the more they get these Crusade armies out, the better they're getting at creating something individual, but also unique, but something that really kind of works. What's been nice about this one, like you say, is the number of callbacks to the system you've got with everything into one. I think very early on, the different parts of Crusade were great, but they worked in isolation with one another, didn't they? Whereas now it feels everything sort of linking together.
I think what's interesting about this one is it seems quite secular, deliberately so, whereas a lot of these systems previously, they sort of like build to a peak.
Yeah.
Like there's an ultimate goal.
Yeah. Like the Necron one particularly.
Yeah.
Full, get a really good one, and then you're back to square one and got to start again.
Whereas like this one feels like it's very sort of like ongoing. You need to stay in motion with it, you know, because you're constantly trying to acquire more ingredients so that you can spend them on an elixir every game, so that you're not suffering withdrawal, you know, across your army, without sort of having like this tiered end goal where you're trying to get to tier 4. It's not. You're just trying to keep your elixirs going and going and going. It seems like more like the end game is that, you know, specific character that you're trying to ascend to demonhood. But that's more the through line of the story of your Crusade Force than it is like the goal, if that makes sense. I was intrigued to see what they were going to do with Emperor's Children, and actually leaning into essentially the combat drug sort of system that they've got going is something which I think feels right at home actually in Crusade. It's got that sort of between games progressive feel to it, while also feeling relevant in each individual game that you play. It's funny how with like Warhammer being a comparatively large-scale war game, like, when you're playing it, one of the aspects of warfare that doesn't often come up in great detail mechanically is chemical warfare in various shapes and forms. It's one of the reasons why I actually really enjoy playing the Escher gang in Necromunda, because they have a similar system to this, where they're brewing elixirs and stims and combat drugs that they use, from game to game, and they're constantly trying to keep their supplies up so they can, pop these chems when they need them in the moment. And actually, that's not something you get a lot of in general 40k. So seeing it brought into the Emperor's Children actually feels like quite a natural home for it, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you'll have to let us know, Darren, how it goes for you in the future if you find yourself playing any Crusades with the Emperor's Children. You'll have to tell us all.
Yeah, I've been talking about it with my friend about doing that. With Elliot, we were going to do versus Guard, I think, mostly, but then try and get other people involved. So definitely like to do that.
You'll need to.
yeah, definitely. But I definitely think kind of taking the easy approach, what you were saying about maybe just going for leveling up the character, might be like a nice easy way of doing that, and then just trying to push for that big demon prince.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've mentioned it a few times throughout this, but partially because, one, it's topical because this is a Crusade episode, and two, because it came out last week. So it's been the thing it's been the thing I've been working on recently and thinking about and talking about. But yeah, if you are interested in sort of getting to grips with the Crusade system, sort of cutting through a lot of the jargon and the paperwork and knowing a bit what you do and more often what you don't need from the initial set of rules, go check that out. There'll be a link at the end of this video. There'll be a link in the description. You'll be able to just find it as one of my, recent and the most popular videos on my channel. So yeah, let's say I really sort of break down what you do and don't need in order to get started, and some general hints and tips to sort of getting your, things going with your little group of friends. So say in the comments, I was even having a conversation with one viewer talking about like a suggested system for how you can sort of play a Crusade in a solo play method. So obviously playing games with opponents, but opponents who aren't necessarily part of a Crusade group that you're playing as. Instead, you're just tracking stuff for your own force and sort of having a small balancing mechanic in place. But yeah, all good stuff if you want to go check that out. And speaking of checking things out, before we head off, where can people find you both online?
You'll find me on Instagram. I can never remember, so I'm going to rely on Tony to put my I think it's Sharpe608, I believe it is, isn't it?
Something like that. It'll come up on screen now. Yeah,
complete hobby account where I try to post pictures of my hobby progress or games I've played. If you scroll back far enough, you'll find pictures of a game I played against the Orcs last year at a tournament where somebody absolutely rinsed me in 3 turns, and I got to go home early. Do you remember that one, Darren?
I do. I'm sorry.
And Darren, where can people find you online?
My hobby Instagram is Orc Daggers, but Daggers is spelled as if an orc is wrote. So I'm sure you'll find it in the link below.
Yeah, again, just link below, might be on screen right now, one or the other, or both. And as always, myself, you can find me at Narrative Wargamer on basically everything, including Instagram and here on YouTube. And on Patreon, because that is the other place that is definitely worth going and checking out. There's more rewards and sort of bonuses going up now on Patreon. One of the main things is our monthly mission. I'm going to go on about it because I go on about it because I make these missions every month. I put together, narrative mission set, narrative set of environment rules. One of the main reasons is because I just think it's great to be able to offer a alternative for people for their pick up and play games without it necessarily having to be a mission deck mission. So yeah, if you do want to get access to a little back catalogue with a new release every month, that is one of the rewards available to Flash Kit tier patrons and above. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Link below, on screen, all the things. As always, if you have liked this video, then do give it a like, subscribe here on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcasting platform to this, then again, leave us a review. It's all good stuff, helps people find the show. And we also have a couple of affiliate links, including Element Games. If you go follow that link down in the description, it just lets them know that you came from us. And if you do buy anything from them, then we get a low kickback. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps support the show. And yeah, I'm really pleased to say that it seems like YouTube is taking off again properly now. Say 1,000+ subscribers. It's going up every day. I am sticking to getting at least one video out every week at the moment. We've got plans in place for all sorts of fun things coming up, and yeah, hopefully it's just going to grow and grow from here. So any and all support that we can get is hugely appreciated, and will help just grow the channel and allow me to do this more and more full time, hopefully. So yeah, I say thank you both Darryn and Sharpe for joining me tonight. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future.
Thank you for having us. Cheers.
And I think after tonight, definitely going to have to consider getting both Dan and Chris back on at some point to do respective Crusade episodes for the World Eaters and Death Guard. And then we're going to have to find a Thousand Sons player from somewhere, I feel, because I don't think we have one at the moment in our sort of little circle of regular co-hosts, but maybe we'll find one, who knows. So yeah, until next time, guys, this has been Narrative Wargamer, helping you to discover more ways to play 40k.